You're right. I've just finished reading this, Metro2033 by Dmitry Glukhovsky. I've probably pronounced that wrong, and considering this book is set in Russia, there's going to be a lot of stuff I pronounced wrong, so don't get upset about it, but I'm just going to recommend this book to you, really. I think it's a great book. I think it should be considered a modern classic of sci-fi, but what it's about is the Moscow Metro, because in this book, the World War III has happened, and the world's been utterly devastated, and the people living in Moscow, or at least as many of them as possible, went to the metro and sealed up the doors and sealed up all the entrances and used it as a great big air raid shelter. So they've basically lived there for years and years and years, and I think like this book actually takes place 30 years after all that. And in that time, humanity's come come to become accustomed to living in the dark, and they've turned all the stations into towns and cities, and there's humans can see better in the dark, but if they go outside, if the radiation doesn't kill them, then if they actually see natural sunlight, then they'll be blinded. So a lot has changed, and living in the metro is very tough. There's not a lot of supplies or resources, and actually in the book it does address that, like certain stations send out what the book refers to as stalkers. They're basically just scavengers. It sends them out into the world with radiation suits and guns, and that's generally how the world works. But the story takes place in the north, and right up here by VDNK, and Artyom lives there. He's a young man, and he has been given a mission by the Hunter. The Hunter is investigating the stations that are to the north of VDNK, because VDNK has been being attacked by creatures that the book doesn't really go into detail about exactly what they look like, which is sensible, because it keeps the suspense up. It makes them more frightening. But yes, the Hunter goes to the north to investigate that, and he says to Artyom, if I don't come back, go to Police, I think that's how it's pronounced, and it's right there. That's the biggest station, it's the city station. Go there and get some reinforcements, tell them they will help. And of course, that's just a brief summary of what's said in the conversation. The conversation they have is actually really interesting. It sets up Artyom's motivation, it tells you a lot about Artyom. And yes, this is just the story of Artyom's travelling from their VDNK to Police to try and get help for VDNK, to try and save it. And like I say, it's really, really good. I mean, it's well fleshed out. The tone of the world is very, very bleak, and in some places a little bit depressing, but on the whole it feels like a big adventure. Pardon me again. It could do with a bit more proofreading in places. I have noticed the odd mistake, but that's not anything too important. The characters are really good. You meet a lot of them. Granted, you meet Artyom and you follow him throughout the whole of the book. I mean, and he generally comes across as a very likeable character. You know, he changes, he has an arc, and he's very, very human. You think, some of the situations he's in, you think, yeah, that's pretty much what I'd do. But the other characters, like Khan, he is, he comes in quite early on, and because Artyom's travelling through all the metro, he has a lot of time, and a lot of time to think and reflect on the state of humanity now it lives in the metro, and the time to think about what he's doing and stuff, and his mission. And in that sense, the book has a very philosophical sort of way about it. You know, there's a lot of introspection, I'd guess, and Khan is plays into that quite well. You know, Artyom, throughout most of this book, is very sort of wide-eyed and naive about the whole metro, and Khan, you know, takes him under his wing, and a lot of characters do that. But some of the characters are good in other respects, where, like, I think it's Melnik. He's, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's a stalker. You meet him towards the end, and again, another one of these characters who Artyom spends a lot of time with. I ended up liking him. I thought, yeah, he was a good guy, until it got a couple of, like, 3 or 4 chapters before the end, and I'm not going to give anything away, but like, he did something, and then my opinion of Melnik completely changed. It's like, whoa, this guy isn't, there's a darker side to this guy, you know. And that's one of the good points about this book. All the characters through it are very multifaceted, and they're all very human, really. In closing, it's definitely worth your time and your effort. I won't give anything away about the ending, but it is fitting. It's bleak, and I cannot think of this book ending any other way. It's not a cop-out. It's quite, well, slightly depressing, but it's very, very good. Anyway, read and enjoy.